Here we go.
Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the BrainDrive weekly dev stream. Our mission here at BrainDrive is to build a superior user-owned alternative to big tech AI systems. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at BrainDrive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the tech side of the operations here.
Great. So every week at Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we update on progress from the previous week. We talk about what we want to prioritize work-wise for the coming week. And if we have time, we do one big picture topic discussion. So Dave always kicks us off with his project, his progress from last week. So you want to take it away, Dave?
Yep. Let's go ahead and share my screen really quick. There we go. And as you'll see here, we are to our basically what we call our core all the time, because of the fact that we are focused on providing a core experience right now, which is the having a prompt, being able to text with an AI, communicate with an AI, and then get a response back. So we've been kind of hyper focused in that mentality lately. Let's see. Last week we went through a few things. If you've been watching day to day, you'll see a few changes here. Basically, the layout changed a little bit. We have thinking processes. So if I told my little AI here, let's go to and see my normal. So if I want to get it to be a little longer, let's see what it does. Oh, and of course it's going to break. Oh, I have a llama shut down right now. I forgot. I was updating before the call. I have my
You
llama
got
shut
your
down.
Olama?
What? I have
You
it
got
shut
Olama
down right
down?
now. I had it because I was updating it. I had like 0.9 still that was on it, and I was updating it.
Well, that's a good error message to, would it be possible if it's like to have like no model available or no?
Yes, it would be because the 404 is basically it's saying that when I reached out to the Olama's API, it was a 404, which means no site there. And yeah, we can clean that up with a better message right there. So it's like, and it normally doesn't happen because mine just stays on all the time.
Yep.
Um, but the basic premises was that we were mimicking OpenAI a little bit of the fact that, hey, when you have almost 1 billion people hitting it on every month, people are used to that type of experience. So we were trying to target when you put in a prompt, it allows you to start reading the response initially, and then it stops so you can control the scroll of how much you want to read afterwards. Um, and so basically it'll kind of jump to right there. The thinking process will stay collapsed while it processes. That'll be changed to thinking as well this week. Um, this will just stay collapsed there. And then when the actual response that it's going to give you will start, and it'll just feed to this much. And as you read, you can scroll down yourself. And that way the prompt will, or the response rate will be your reading rate versus it trying to force you to jump up here when you're not ready. And
Great.
that was the big thing. Let's see a few other things. The chat history, it might break on me, but basically, if you pick a conversation, like right here, I'll pick with Mitchell, it'll automatically change so that the model that you had selected, if you had a persona selected, that would change as well. I was not using a persona in this case, so it was no persona. But if I had chosen Rudy or Bishop, it would have selected those for me, just as if I would come back to here. Let's go to here. See, it chooses Bishop back again. Uh, let's see this list right here on the Mac that'll be fixed this week. We also have it selected where we have open router. We discovered an encryption issue in the Mac side of things. It wasn't handling the environment variables correctly. I already have a code fixed for that. I am in the process of testing it, and that'll come out this week, and clean that up as well. Let's see what else. The install instructions, if you were to wander over to BrainDrive, we have updated them, streamlined them a little better, but just some minor improvements, no massive changes there. Let's see. Anything else?
Service Bridge, you made the life cycle manager updates on the Service Bridge this week
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. All of the life cycle, or not life cycle, the Service Bridge examples have been moved over to BrainDrive, and each of those projects have been rebuilt with the correct home location in BrainDrive AI repo. So that way, if you install it, and let's say next week I discover something wrong, or I discover there's a better way to do this, let me go ahead and give this example. You'll see just like our normal plugins do over here, you would just like right here, the example, the Service Bridge theme has an update. You can update it, and then you can see it work in action, just like BrainDrive Chat. The version I have installed right now is 19, but 20 is updated, and you can just update from there as well.
Cool.
I don't think we had really any bad things happen last week. Other than Open Router, we don't have exactly fixed because we went into last week thinking this was an Open Router issue. And then by the end of the week, discovering this was a isolated Mac issue in how it handles variables from the environment. And so what works on Windows and Ubuntu does not work on Mac. And I guess that would be the problem of last week, or what was the word? Celebrations and
Challenges.
challenge. Yeah, that'd be the challenge. Is me using a Mac. That
Opportunities for things to overcome.
Yes, that is I've gotten better. I noticed that this morning because I went into testing my encryption fix, and all I had to do was figure out how to fix my scroll bar so it worked. So now it's just getting used to. On a Mac I do command, and on a Windows and Ubuntu I use control. That's my only hiccup right there. But this morning was like I said, once my scroll bar worked, I noticed it was like, okay, this is not the fight it was last week for me.
Yeah, and you can switch it so when I get my Macs at first, it scrolls in the opposite
Yep.
direction of what I'm expecting, so I always switch it, you
Yeah,
know.
I use a Logitech MX, so it was like I had to figure, and it was for some reason it was like I would have to do an entire scroll to get one bump, and that was like killing me the whole way because I rely on it for a lot of different things I found out. Um, Especially like when you're doing using AI involved because you scroll up and down to see to make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing,
Right.
and so like that was like it was a constant handicap the whole way through. But this morning I figured it out, got it working, and I was like, okay, this is going pretty smooth.
Great. So from my side, we have now a couple of new documents, as well as, well, I'll start with the roadmap.
Hmm.
So we now have a 5 phase roadmap. As Dave was talking about, we're currently in phase one. Phase
Hmm.
zero was choosing our license,
Yep.
which no brainer for freedom, ownership, freedom, empowerment, and sustainability. We believe MIT is the best license. And now we're on phase one, the foundation, the goal of which is developers can easily install BrainDrive Core on all the major operating system and have a clean first tell me a joke chat with a local AI
Yep.
model. Um, then we're on to our developer beta release. And then we are down to our developer release, polishing all of that, identifying all bugs, making sure they're all resolved. Then we're to our version one release in phase four, which we expand beyond developers to
Hmm.
non-tech users being able to own, control, and benefit from their AI system. And then we're on to phase five, which is community acceleration. Hopefully, by this point, we have a large community of owners and developers working on the BrainDrive platform and building out the ecosystem in a decentralized way. And so we have those 5 phases. And then we have our GitHub project, which is now aligned from a task management standpoint on a day-to-day task management to those phases. So we can, see, and when we have new items that come up, we can add those to the backlog
Hmm.
here, to the specific phase that they're in, and everyone can have a really good understanding of where we're at in the process of the vision and jump in on
Yep.
tasks, et cetera, where they believe they can add value, et cetera.
Yeah, and it should be
Um,
pointed out as we get closer to different phases, we will start probably putting I guess more detailed tasks involved. Right now, it's like, especially when you look at 5 and 4, probably a very high overview. It's like, okay, the installer, and I know it's like that's a big ticket item and it's a lot of little steps in there like that. But as we get closer, we'll probably start ironing out and saying, okay, this is what we need to do in the installer process, Mac, Ubuntu, Windows. And those kind of things. Just so somebody, if
yep.
they look at it right now, they don't think, "Hey, you guys are missing a bunch." Yes, we are, because we're a little ways away from that, from those
Yeah.
phases.
Absolutely. And you can already see, I've already started, I think both of us have kind of starting to flesh some of this out.
Yeah.
When I added, we talked about the API reference guide, which is something we wanted to create in phase two of our roadmap. So I've linked that to the community forum where we have the roadmap where it fits. Here's a link to the task, and then here's the discussion and any other, an AI powered summary of that discussion. So we can, really bring people up to speed very quickly on what we're working on, what we need help with, what the progress is, and keep this communication very transparent and
Yep.
open. That makes it really easy for people to follow the parts that they're interested in without getting overwhelmed with everything that's happening with the project. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think Dave and I prior to this had to-dos in like eight different places.
Every week
And
is a different note file, then every task within a week almost becomes a different note file. It's getting ridiculous.
yeah, so now I think it's very clear. It sounds like this is done. I'll just test this on my Mac. So once I've done that, we can mark this off. And then the only thing left in phase one is just fixing this encryption issue that we're having on Macs. And then we're done. We've met all the acceptance criteria that are here in the roadmap for phase one.
I
Uh,
thought one question. I thought because we discovered the scroll wasn't working exactly how we wanted it on Friday. That was for this week, correct?
okay, all right, that's fine. I thought
Yeah.
I thought you'd fix that. So
No, I fixed the first part, and then while you were playing with it, you
I see.
discover. Remember how that was like? No, it was like, okay, I still have that on my list for
Okay,
this
fine.
week. Yeah.
So we have two items left, on our phase one, and then, the install process is working really well across all operating systems. And, once these two things are resolved, you should be able to, I mean, really, you can have a chat now with a
Yep.
local AI model, but it should be, a very good experience once these two issues are resolved.
Yeah.
And then we'll be on to phase two.
Yep.
So, this really getting organized around this so we can, I feel like this is one of those sort of like go slow to go fast moments. Like this took forever, but now that we have it all organized, I think it's really going to speed us up and keep us focused on the things that are the highest priorities, which is always important, but especially when you have a small team.
Yep.
So that's all done now. And then I also created, Dave and I had a discussion on the contributor document. So we now have, an overview for people who are looking to contribute to the project, links to all the things that we've just talked about, as well as this weekly development live stream. uh, I'm hoping that we can, for people who are like excited about the project, they can come here and they can get involved really quickly and they know exactly where they can fit in and exactly what we're working on and all of that. The other open source, I'm new to the open source world in terms of developing, but the other projects that I've looked at, this stuff's a little all over the place. It's kind of hard to know. So I'm hoping we can do a better job with that and get people excited and make it as easy as possible for people to join. So, really here, building plugins is really where the majority of the work should be
Yep.
because we want to have a lean core, which is the ownership, and then the plugins drive the freedom and all of the value creation and everything, or the majority of it, should be done at the plugin layer. So just a little bit talking about that. Then when you would want to contribute to the core, uh, our API discussion, a little just bullet PR guidelines, And then, this is where we're at. This is new for us. We're just now accepting contributors, so you'd be pioneering.
Yeah, and we on purposely have it. We were talking about this on Friday. We on purposely have it very open right now. And we use the term very early on in our conversations, Wild Wild West. Um, and that way we can allow the community to get involved in the process of, hey, when you have an idea, you want to contribute, these are the things that other members of the community, not just us, need to see for it to go forward.
Right.
Because things may go beyond even like one person might have a great idea, but no tech skills. And that would need to marry with somebody who doesn't have the idea, but with the tech skills.
Yep.
So, and through this process, we'll figure out what is actually necessary so that all these pieces can align no matter where the pieces fill in, just like our plugin system in general.
Yep. Great. So this is what we discussed, a link to the full roadmap, a summary of the phases, what we're looking for right now, which matches up to phase two around building persona-based experiences, role-playing experiences, assistance, etc. And yeah, and I think this is nice and light, and
Yep.
someone should be able to get up and running very quickly on this. So that's done. I also added um, the service bridges. I've got a little bit of a formatting issue here, but it's still usable. This is one thing that Codex was not able to help me with is resolving this formatting issue of this skinny column, but we'll get there. So you'd already seen this, Dave.
Yep.
Like this was in our other documents, but now I kind of combined to what there's like one overview document and one with the examples, and
Yep.
now it's one document, which I think makes more sense. And so that is, the next thing is just polishing up the plugin template, and then the document site, at least the first draft V1 foundation, should be done and all approved by Dave and everything
Yep.
as well. So we're making progress there. Just other development. Beck, who is working on our Chat with Documents plugin, is making some progress. I know he submitted a couple pull requests that you merged, David.
Already handled, unless there was one this morning that I missed, but I
No,
seen the
I
one
don't
over
think
the.
so.
Yep, I seen the one over the weekend, and I had tackled that yesterday. Yeah, he's all taken care of.
Yeah, so this is replicating the projects experience that you get with the paid ver they may have actually moved these into the free, but the projects functionality that you get with ChatGPT and Claude and the like, where you can ground your conversation in a set of documents.
Hmm.
And this is a big feature for people who want to use AI with their data, but don't want to send it out on the internet to the ChatGPTs of the world, or at least want to have the option to run it locally. This all runs locally now, and he's in the process of getting it working with the models that are already installed on BrainDrive, because right now it's just set to one specific model. We want you to be able to use any
Yep.
model that you'd like within that, and then the chat history. And once those two things are done, I think we're in developer beta release for that one as well, which should be
Yep.
exciting.
Yeah.
And then Navneet is he showed me the land. I'm talking with him at 11 right after this call about a landing page for BrainDrive Model Match that we can send people to. So we're about to start promoting the beta release of
Model
Model Match
match.
as well. So we sort of have everything seems to be sort of coming together here at the right time. A lot of the stuff that we've been working on for in some cases months is now all seems to be lining up to be ready around the same time, which is cool. All right. So for this week, um, here is encryption key.
Yep. We are going to
Uh,
wrap that up. In fact, probably today, because like I said, I was getting the Mac set up too. I wanted to do I have the code done, I have the commit done. So I was wiping out BrainDrive so I could start from scratch and doing a complete install and then test it without and then with, to make sure it works so that when you get a hold of it, your Mac will be like for the first time going, oh yes, we have Open Router.
yep, and that's so we have for phase one because it's a local experience.
Yeah.
It's just really getting the encryption key working
Yeah.
just to make sure that's not an issue for the local experience. But our hope is once Dave resolves this, it is also going to resolve a phase two item, which is getting open routers, our
Yep,
open router, which is our first community plugin, non-default plugin, working as well. And that is right here.
yep,
So that should kill that one too, right?
yes.
Great. And then scroll with chat.
Yeah, I didn't even look at that one yet simply because I was always on the, but that's just going to be of making sure that when you scroll, the automatic scroll doesn't override. That's all.
Okay, cool. So this is for this week as well
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay. And then the next big project we have is moving the Olama
Pulling
out
that out.
of the
Yep,
settings plugin. Right now, when you download BrainDrive as a default plugin, you get the settings, which handles all of the settings
yep.
for the system. And that originally included Olama to get us up and running, but the plan was always to separate the Olama piece of that into its own plugin so people can get rid of that and not use Olama if they don't want to. And also, developers have an example to build off of
Yep.
for other local LLM runners like Llama CPP and the other ones that are popular.
Yep. Yeah, because there's like I was reading there's an OLLM, there's a VLLM, there's an LLM Lite. There are just tons of choices that are out there right now, and it's like Olama is just while right now it is the dominant one, I can see very easily where this is going to get phased out, especially like when you look at what Olama's do OLLM is doing, where it's using compression for context windows and stuff like that. So. We're going to be ahead of that curve. And that way, if something else takes the reins and becomes better, or we can easily, our users can also easily swap out and move forward as they
Yeah, and
please.
that goes to our freedom pillar, right? We
Yep,
want you to have the freedom to use whatever you want in your AI system to run models, whether that be local or API based or everything in between. Cool. So that's moving. That's the next big thing. I also have, okay, we already talked about this. Beck is going to
yep,
continue to work on chat with documents. We seem to be, I think we may be able to wrap up getting it to work with BrainDrive models and BrainDrive chat history this week with him. So excited about that. Go ahead.
yeah. I've on purposely stayed away from because I know I have some chat history modifications coming, but I knew he was heading in this direction. So I've on purposely it was like I wasn't touching it in case he has little back work done like that. I didn't want us to cross paths and like that. So it's like once he gets done, I'll do what I need to do. So that we can make sure that it's like the chat history. There are some instances where it's not absolutely perfect. We talked about with the limitations of what somebody could do as a plugin developer. And
Right.
it's like so we'll be able to once he's done and he's solid, I'll be able to come in and we'll take a look at what we want to do to remove some limitations for plugin developers.
Great. Let's just see if there's anything else on here for you. These are all backlog things,
Yep.
so they'll be part of phase two,
Yep.
but oh, just
Yep. Right
change
there. Yep.
thinking
Yeah. That.
process to thinking. That's an easy one.
Yep.
Yeah, the rest of these are backlogs, so not for the coming week. Does that sound right to you?
Yep.
Great. And then for me, I have blah blah blah. Okay, so I want to get the documentation, descriptions, for all of the default plugins and community plugins that we've developed, get all that at least AI powered, good
Yep.
rough draft documentation. We'll come back and improve it, but I just want to make sure everything's there. And then I want to go ahead and get backups figured out so we can not have to worry about
Yep.
that going forward. This should be a relatively easy process because this service. Yeah, go ahead.
While this is going back one to the documentation on all plugins, we probably want to have a slight conversation this week dealing with the JSON structure for the marketplace. Because this would be a good prelude of taking that documentation and information and easily moving to the JSON structure that'll be necessary. That way we don't have to come back and do anything twice.
Okay, great. Um, I'll add that to the list. Um, and then in terms of coming back and doing everything twice, I think we should move. it's fine now, and I do think it's nice to have GitHub paying for the hosting for documentation, especially if we do scale,
Yep,
but I just feel like we want to own and control that. So I want to move off of the GitHub domain for our
yep.
documentation, our Docusaurus site, which they give you for free, which I'm always a little bit like, I want to use the free stuff, but I just feel like I'm putting a lot of internal links to all these things and everything. And I feel like if we do this in the future, it's going to be a nightmare. So I think I might just bite the bullet and go ahead and move this over to a subdomain on BrainDrive.ai.
Hey, building control, right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, so that I want to do that this week. I'm hoping I've done this type of thing before, so I actually think the move will be pretty easy. It'll probably handle the redirects, but I think it's always better, especially if it's not that many, just go in and change the links and
Yep,
everything so they're not a redirect. So that'll be some work, but hopefully AI can help me with that as well. And then this one. So originally when I had originally it set up so all the documents that were in the root repos were updating on the docs repo, which is powering the Docusaurus site that I showed you the roadmap on and
yep,
everything, and vice versa. That's gotten broken and tweaked, and so I need to go in and make sure that those are because none of the stuff like the roadmap that I showed you
yep.
is reflecting in the root repos.
Okay,
So I
yep,
got to get all that figured out. And then I think once we have those things done from a documentation standpoint, which is my big project, we're ready to go. I think
okay,
then
yep,
it's launch, post, and video, and switching over Digital Brainbase, our old sites, to BrainDrive, and doing a launch announcement on some smaller forums and all that. I think we're ready to go from a documentation standpoint. Does that sound right to you?
yep.
Great. So that'll be my week. And yeah, I think hopefully we'll be ready to launch Model Match as well. So yeah, we'll need to court so we're not hitting forums multiple times with
Yeah.
things, but I think there's enough in this space that, we can go out with two different things.
Yeah, and I was thinking it was like with model match especially, it's like this week I was reading how Granite 4 came out. And they were describing all the uses for it, and I was like, it would be great when we get model match to the point where a model comes out like that, where it's by IBM and they're toting what it does, and then we can easily run it through the paces of find out what it's really good for actual use cases
Right,
versus because at the bottom of that release is like they're touting all the mathematical scores that what this does and like that. But at the end of the day, it's like I know your data sets are gamed for it now. And so it's
right,
like, what does it really do? And for me, I was thinking about tool calling and things like that for agentic stuff. And it was like, but this doesn't tell us anything. And this is where model match could really come in handy as we evolve it forward.
right. All right, great. Anything else for this week before we switch to big picture?
No, like we said, it's like I have the extraction of the Olama, the thinking process, which is a little cleanup, the encryption and the scrolling. And I really believe once we get to there, um, the chatting experience should be relatively solid. Of course, little nuances will come up with based on different users, but I feel pretty confident now, especially after last week's cleanup routine. We should be looking pretty good, and you should be having fun on your Mac then, because it'll be doing what I. It's like it's funny. It's like when I noticed the first time I said, "Hey, hand me your DB, let me see what it looks like," and I said, "Your database isn't encrypted like it should be." That was that indicator right there that tells the whole time of it should have been encrypted. It was like, and it deals with encryption the whole way through. So now we're at the root of the problem. We'll get it cleaned up, and hey, I'll feel better.
Great. All right, so big picture. So phase two of our roadmap is all around role-playing experiences. And on BrainDrive, you are free to create whatever role-playing experience you want. But I think we want to focus on use cases
Hmm.
primarily and giving people um, these. personal assistant experience, research assistant, writing coach, domain expert, consultants, etc. But we also know that a lot of the best developers in the role playing world are into characters and
Yeah.
those types of things. So come one, come all
Yep.
to develop experiences, role playing experiences on BrainDrive. And I think Dave has some vision here that I think it would be great for you just to share.
Yeah, I was because I thought about this when we brought it up last week, and I'll do the elephant in the room really quick. We know this is going to include girlfriends, just pure and simple. However, my wife has a very good perspective on we'll call it role playing because it doesn't matter how you involve your chat with an AI. In some aspect, you are involved in role playing. And if you look at we'll call it the ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 era prompts, it almost demonstrates it because you always tell the AI your role is X. So you were already there. You're already involved in role playing. So all we're going to do is basically help define it and enhance it. And you fill in the X of whatever X is going to be. Is it going to be a therapist? Is it going to be a friend you can just vent to? Are you going to have a research buddy, a coding buddy? I want to learn Spanish, so you'll have a Spanish tutor and things like that. And the role playing is almost a perfect opportunity because not only do you get uh the, the the guts of what you're looking for, but you also get probably a more human aspect approach, which probably lends to everybody. I think. And so I broke down some of the in my head the in the past the failures of role playing done and also when it was done right. Because if you look from like my era, it all started with BBS boards. When I was dealing with hacking and all the other stuff that when I was first learning how to code from that approach, everybody was on BBS boards and they took all different kind of approaches. They had different topics, each one. Some could be games, some could be whatever. It just, you name it, there was a BBS board for it. This then all of a sudden turned into the IRC, which Internet Relay Chats, which is just a group of servers that communicated. You were not quite decentralized because they were actually hard-coded servers. However, then you had tons of rooms with different topics involved and like that. And then you get beyond that, you get the Second Life and those kind of atmospheres, which while you have the 3D world, but it's basically the IRC with a nice little cover around it. Because you can go to different areas, people build towns, people build, just very topic centric areas. And at the end of the day, you had a conversation with somebody. It wasn't, and in fact, people that had voice were the minority. It was all text based. You see the bubbles out of everybody's little character's head. It was at the end of the day, it was just text chat with a really nice cover on it. Now the failures were ICQ. Doesn't exist anymore. But they're almost like today's social medias in the fact that you had to already know person X before you could have a conversation with them. And to me, this is where the current role-playing environment that's being built is kind of heading, which I don't agree with, because they're going to have the same problem that ICQ had. You had to know what you were looking for. To me, the best things in life are the ones you don't know you're looking for, the ones you stumble into. My wife's child, Carson, you never know what that kid's doing. And one day he came down, I'm learning Russian. Now, why is a kid in Vermont learning Russian at 14? Just because he wants to. He stumbled into Duolingo or whatever it was, and it was like, here, you can learn Russian. So he started learning Russian. And, he has no use for it. It was a fad, but it was kind of like that perfect thing. If we build the enhanced chat experience where you can run into things that you're not expecting, it would open your world to different experiences that you would not stumble on if you were left to pick them yourselves. And I think that would be a perfect way to go. But at the same time, you have to have, like you said, you want a research assistant, so you have to know how to get to where you want to go. And at the same time, stumble into the unexpected. You could get a research assistant, and I almost envision is like a little town. And if we go to the decentral, Dave and I have had conversations about decentralizing the chat experience where you could connect to other people's brain drives and stuff like that. This would almost allow you to, let's say you had a knowledge base that dealt with chess, you had a knowledge base that dealt with Spanish and the Civil War. These are because these are your things. It's like the ability to communicate with other people's brain drives. And so you could travel to this person's town or brain drive, however you want to, to his knowledge base and go, hey, I can ask you questions about Civil War. I can ask you, tell me about chess masters. I want to learn Spanish. It's like rather than you having to have this knowledge yourself, you would be able to go visit other people and get that experience right there. And of course, then the funny term comes up digital pimp. It's not, don't take it the bad way, but it's like you are offering knowledge, which is the digital aspect, and offering it to other people for free or for whatever. The economy will be determined, as that grows, of course. But at the end of the day, it's what it's becoming. Except for you would be able to create your own atmosphere that people could come to, visit, and experience. And I think this is where the plugin development could really accentuate as well, because you'd be able to almost develop your own experience. When they come here, this is the interface they would get to see. This is my logo. This is what I want them to read. So they know what I have to offer. It's like when I thought about this, and this is where, hey, BBS, the IRC, to Second Life, to whatever, versus going the other route where you almost force people down a path and railroad them, and then you end up at where a dead system because hey, that's what ICQ is nowadays.
Or there's no path because it's
Yep,
just a blank piece of paper.
yep, exactly. So,
All right, so it's interesting that you went back to, the chat systems basically, the
mhm,
bulletin boards, the chat, early days of messaging
yep,
basically. But these were all humans, right? On these.
yes, but why?
Okay, so yeah, so talk a little bit more about I don't know that the average person that's watching the live stream would make the connection of like, okay, we're talking about role playing with AIs and personas, etc. And you started with like chatting with people on bulletin boards. Like, what's the connection?
If okay, well, because there really isn't much difference if you do whatever you're doing well. It's if you develop like a Spanish tutor, and let's go with that one. You log into somebody else's brain drive. Say, hey, I want to learn Spanish. Now, if you were dealing with a human versus human, of course, you have to set up an appointment. Two people have to be available. You have language barriers because I've spoken to people all over the world. I've always dealt with that. In this case, when you're dealing with AI, you are really dealing with the prompt level, you're dealing with the personality level, and the person who develops the experience, eh, you can fool people. It's these AIs are notoriously now are getting to the point where you don't know who you're speaking with anymore.
Right, but
Eh,
I think, and don't let me put words in your
Yeah,
mouth, but I think the goal here is not really to fool anyone. It's to
mimic.
basically expand the number of people that you can interact with and that can interact with you by giving them access to your knowledge bases under certain scenarios and your role playing experience. So, for
Yep,
example, to go back to the Spanish one, if I'm a Spanish teacher and
yep,
I have a really specific method that I use to teach people Spanish, now instead of them having to talk to me to get an interactive, like the two options used to be I have to set aside time to talk with you to get an
hmm
interactive experience, or you can just read my static stuff, and
yep,
that's the scalable way to do it.
yep,
AI like sits in the middle where now you can have an interactive experience. It still may be more valuable if you talk directly to me as the Spanish teacher, but the interactive experience is going to be a lot better than just the static experience that you can't interact with and that is not going to personalize to you and all those types of things. And over time, these interactive AI experiences in some ways may be way better than talking to the actual person because you can combine multiple people's knowledge
Yep.
bases and AIs and role play and personas, et cetera, into
Yep.
completely, they're like building blocks, basically.
Yes, yeah, because you could have, if you built, first of all, let's say the first piece of the puzzle is a language tutor. Okay, so that would be the first puzzle, and this would be a system dealing with an AI that, okay, we're going to start at the very basic level of teaching a language. I'm going to teach you about these fundamental pieces. The only thing that's missing there is the actual language that's being taught. So then you take this tutor piece with this Spanish piece, which has the language and the interpretation between the nuances between English and Spanish, because I'm an English speaker, native, and I want to learn Spanish. So now it's like you combine these two pieces and then you end up with a product, so to speak, or a whatever the word would be, because of the fact that a end piece where the person connects to, and you have the tutoring, you have the language, and now I'm being taught Spanish.
Right.
And or because it would be it would be a commodity at this point.
Another example that builds on what you're saying that could be directly here is like if how this could be even more valuable than talking to the person is okay, people can talk to me
Hmm.
and I can give them the vision, the mission, the history, the non-deep technical side of BrainDrive,
Yep,
right? They can talk to you and they can get the really deep technical side of
yep,
BrainDrive, right? Um, they can talk to my AI or
yep,
your AI and probably not get quite as good as talking directly to us, but way better than just reading a
yes,
document that's not static. It doesn't speak to them on our level.
yep,
But they can talk to eventually BrainDrive Concierge, which is both of our
yep,
expertise, and that would be better than talking to either one of us on a one-on-one
yep.
basis, right? So that's where the AI becomes the better experience.
I do believe we are really close to almost it's all a matter of how it's been executed, but it can be better and not
Okay, so
and
this is
full
where, sorry to
and
interrupt you, but this is getting circling back
yeah,
to my original question for you.
yeah,
It sounds like what you're saying is these are all people going and looking for information, knowledge,
yep,
connection. They're going in the digital world and they're looking for that,
yep,
right? And in the past, it's been human to human, and in the future, and really presently, it's turning into human to human, but also human to AIs, and probably eventually AIs to AIs.
yes, yeah. Because your AI, you might tell your AI, especially when you get to agentic, that I'm thinking about learning Spanish. Go find me, you know, information on this. Go find me a tutor that's really good at taking me from a non-Spanish speaker to a intermediate Spanish speaker. And so when you come back, it's like here's these A websites, and then B, here are these actual tutors that I found on BrainDrive and like that could like that. So it's like this is almost becoming, we'll call it Web 3.0, because it's like you had Web 1.0, which was just static. Two starts hitting a little bit more dynamic. Three is probably closer to where we are right now. But four becomes, it's like there's an interface now. There's not text and all like that. And then you say, hey, this is what I want to learn here. It's like, and it says, okay, well, I'm not really good at this, but I can point you in the direction where you perhaps need to be, or a directory, or if you hit the knowledge base that you're good, like say Spanish tutor, and it's like, hey, this is the perfect place to be. Let me help you out. Where do you feel you're at right now? Or let's do better. Here's a test. Take this little quick 10 test. We'll find out where you're at in speaking Spanish, and then we'll
Right.
start
I'm
you off
really
in.
ready to start developing AI systems. This brain drive thing sounds interesting. Tell me more about it.
Yep.
Okay. The AI can talk to that person and meet them where they're at. You know what I mean? Versus them just reading the documentation, which has to address things for everyone, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So you were walking through the history. So starting out on bulletin boards, moving to
I
ICQ,
no 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 no
IRC,
yeah, internet really IRC.
IRC.
That's more, it's more the linear path of everybody that was on a BBS board at one time shifted over to IRC, because it's kind of like it was just an evolutionary scale. IRC or BBS boards, you had no phone number, but it was all segregated into groups and you could just figure out where you wanted to be once you got there. IRC was the evolution of the internet now. So you knew an IP, you connected to there, and then all of a sudden you had 4,000 chat rooms to pick from. So it was like the growth of that.
And was that a good thing?
It depends on how you look at it. 4,000 rooms, that's a pretty long list to go through, and you're going to have a lot of junk, of course. But at the same time, it's almost like what we're trying to do. Whatever you want your knowledge to be, you can offer it. It's like we're not here to tell you what's good or what's bad. We're here to offer you the environment where you could grow whatever you wish to grow with that. It's like, so
Okay.
good or bad is, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But my thing was always looking at, when I looked at this, the history wise, what stood the test of time? Because that is a human indicator of what was good.
What did stand the test of time?
When you went, the BBS boards are still looked at to this day as the predecessor, but the IRC still exists. I still have friends from the 90s on the IRC. My wife laughs at this because, like, one of his name's Camelot Bob. We still talk every day. It's crazy as it sounds, but I've never met the guy.
Right.
It's like, but we've talked every day since the 90s. And I have a few friends, Carnage, he, pops up, he does 3D modeling, with printing and all like that. If and this is almost an example. If I have a question on 3D printing and different models, companies that are available where I can get mold or not molds, uh, there's a term for it, but the actual model that you print. I go to him and I say, "Hey, where can I find this?" And he goes, "Over here, like, go check this Patreon account or stuff like that. And this is where these guys do the best work and stuff like that. Or
Okay,
use this
so
filament."
tie this. I'm still,
Yeah, you're
I
not.
understand, I think, but like, how does this tie into
This
the
is what BrainDrive and AI have to mimic to be successful and the test of time to
Okay,
be.
and the reason why is because people are looking from these AIs the same thing that they're looking for people. Like, I don't go, like, I still go to the doctor, but like, I ask the AI the same question that I would ask the doctor.
It,
And that's because I'm looking for the same thing, which
yep.
is give me advice on how to solve this problem.
And
Right.
AI, it doesn't matter. You fill in a topic, it's all the same. You still
Right.
have that. You're trying to skip me. I don't want to say it like this, but you're trying to skip me wasting time going to the doctor.
Yeah.
If I can just learn, take 2 aspirin and wait a few days, you'll be fine. You don't have
Right. And
can't.
also if my doctor had the AI, but then also like he was like, this doctor has a really good knowledge base, so I'm going to include that for my patients. That's where you start to get what we talked about earlier with you and I, where you're combining our knowledge together and getting something that's
Yep.
much greater than the whole.
Exactly. Your doctor could have BrainDrive, could have, and his knowledge base right there. And you never know, this might get to the point where they might even have your past medical records right there for
Right.
you to ask a question regarding.
Or better yet, you have your past
Yeah, or,
medical records
yep.
on your, server self-hosted under your control, and you can give that AI access to that
Or,
in
yeah,
a
exactly.
controlled
Vice
manner.
versa. You can invite him over. Here's
Right.
my medical records. I haven't seen you before, but I have my stuff here.
Right. Instead of
And,
having to fill out this stuff over and over and
yep.
over again.
But
Okay. So
now get off
basically,
the
the
medical.
reason why you went back to the early days of internet communication is because that's why people are on the bulletin boards. That's why they're on ER. You would ask the AI, where can I find this 3D model right
Yep.
now? In addition to talking to your buddy about it,
Yep,
right?
exactly. So we're to grow, we have to figure out what worked, why it doesn't work now, such as, like, I need to talk to somebody, but his knowledge could be somewhere that I could just gain. And that's where brain drive, I think, can accelerate, is the fact of, if you have a hobby, if you have some talent or knowledge that you wish to share with the world, then BrainDrive and, like, chat with documents, you group all your documents together. We might get to the point where you're actually fine tuning your AI with your knowledge base, and then you can start to share it.
Okay, so what worked was you're now connecting to the internet opened up this whole world of people for knowledge sharing, for
Yep.
relationships, etc., in the digital world that didn't exist before.
Yep.
So that worked,
Yep.
right?
Still
What
working
didn't
today.
work?
What didn't work was when you got railroaded. When the I don't want to call it privacy because it wasn't really privacy, but ICQ is almost a good example of what doesn't work in this case because you had to have somebody's ICQ number. It was almost like your phone number.
Discovery, right, was
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
was not there.
exactly. Because there was no if you had something that I wanted or you had something that you wanted to offer, if that number didn't exist between you two people, there was no way to know. There was no directory. There was no method of that being shared. It would simply be, I would have to meet up with you in some way, shape, or form somewhere for you to say, hey, here's my ICQ number.
Okay. So discovery. Is
Yes.
there anything else that didn't work?
That when you get to the discovery, you also let ICQ. To me, you also head right into the way social media is structured a lot in this case. And I'll go almost to Facebook and stuff like that, where there, there's probably 5 billion Facebook accounts these days and like that. It's impossible to find somebody who does XYZ. It's not going to happen. And then, of course, you have to deal with the rules of the environment, such as Facebook. If you try to look for somebody that does, we'll go with 3D printing, and you start sending out too many friend requests because you're looking for this knowledge, Facebook was going to slap you down because they're going to think, oh, you look like a bot.
Right.
So all of a sudden you can't do friend requests anymore. So it's all based on, these railroads that prevent you from finding from what you want. So it has to be open to like a BBS board, to like an IRC, where it's like there's the world.
Okay.
Nothing's stopping you from exploring it. As you
All right.
said, discovery.
And it needs to be as easy as possible to locate
Yep.
the experience that you're looking for, whether that be I want to learn Spanish, I want to learn about BrainDrive, I want a relationship, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So, and that needs to happen without centralizing,
Yep.
and just becoming another big tech company, right? It needs to
Yes.
be decentralized and user owned, basically.
Yep.
Okay. And so it sounds like from what you're saying, right now, first step one is we need to build a good experience for people,
Yep.
right? We need to build some experiences, right? Some
It's
use cases,
Yep. So when
right?
you're local now we're not going to get out of everybody's head. It's like you're not leaving your house because we're local first right now, and this is the perfect way to do it. You should be right now. Our goal is to build your first knowledge base, build your first experience, share that experience you've built so they can install it and share and enjoy or use or learn from that experience that you developed. Because once we get to there and we iron that out, then we can go, okay, now let's go to the next step. But first, we have to get to that first part.
Okay. And how are we going to do that?
Well, we chat with documents, or actually, the first one is the core one with personas. That's really, if there's a step zero, it's right there. You're able to, all my personas are really based off something crazy. Um, Rudy does with Rubik's Cubes, Bishop, chess, things like that. I don't know how I think you have a
So
talk with,
I just reinstalled, so I
okay.
got a clean install here, but just so people know what we're
Yep.
talking about, like this is personas, which basically allows you to have a custom system prompt and tailor all of the main settings for the AI so that, when you come into your AI chat, you can choose your model and then you can add that persona, which would show here once you've created that. I did like a basic example, talk like a pirate.
Yep.
So when I select pirate persona, I create the persona here. When I select pirate persona in the AI chat, it'll show here, and everything that the AI says will be like, "R matey, she's salty ship today or
Yep.
whatever."
Exactly.
So we're saying that's the first step to creating one of these role-playing experiences, these personal assistants, is creating that system prompt, correct? That
Yeah,
persona.
exactly. And if somebody sees it today, they should consider this alpha or zero step right there like that. This is nowhere near
Not
anywhere.
alpha, like before pre-beta.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, somewhere because there's all the information necessary is not really there. This is just a good step for you to get a feel of when you communicate with an AI and you have a persona, you can start to see how it can be manipulated.
Right.
How it's, like when you did your talk with a pirate and all of a sudden he has a pirate slang. Um, I believe I showed you on when I was the avatar when I had it doing a magic shop and it had it was always have these little fantasy things and like that. It was running a little magic shop. Rudy does Rubik's cubes. He always like puts a little thing in there about Rubik's cubes, a little piece of knowledge, or tries to point the conversation towards Rubik's cubes,
Right.
and those kind of things. It's like you can get pretty far even at the basic scale. The
So
next,
basically, just creating a persona and tuning those variables, would
yep,
be a good first step.
yep.
And then what would
Next,
you imagine the second step to be after that?
the next step would be where we get to start giving examples of how you wanted to talk so that you can really start altering the dialogue. Because just by doing a system prompt only gets you, I'll call it so far. But now it's like when you give it an example of when you phrase your response, this is what it should look like. And so that as it puts response, it'll start curating it to make sure that it matches a similar style to what you've given as an example. We'd also branch into two other worlds, which would be any knowledge you want it to have. Now, you won't be able to go crazy because in context and like that, but you should be able to get partially there right now, where you could have, 5K worth of tokens. Here's your knowledge. Play with this. And then B, or the other side, scenario. Let's say I want you to have an office. Are the things in your office. And so that you can incorporate that into your chat dialogues. And when we get to that part right there, it's like all of a sudden you can start to feel like you're having a conversation with something beyond a cold piece of metal.
And is that done all via the persona
Yep. That
and
that
it's
could all be
all
done in.
within the system prompt
Yep.
or no?
Yes.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we
So
could get away
initially,
with
it's
all
just
of that
basically
today.
step one is how much can we shove into the context window with
Yep.
this system prompt, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then changing these variables like temperature and all that,
Yep.
right?
And to give an example, OpenAI and Anthropic, they all do it. Anthropic's, I believe, has a 25K system prompt. It's like they get ridiculous on their guardrails because that's how they
Okay.
do modify where you're going to.
Okay. And so nothing outside the system prompt, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then step two, it sounds like creating some connection maybe to a knowledge base, to
Yep.
an MCP server, let it search the web, some of the things that we're already working on.
Chat with documents. I would love to see a direct correlation between you have this persona and this is the knowledge base directly tied to it. So you don't have to worry about that connection. You know that if you pick up Bill, Bill has a knowledge base attached to it of the New York Yankees. He has all the stats, all the history, and so that when you chat with Bill, you're going there too for that knowledge base. You just have the entire experience from top to bottom modified.
Okay, so and that's a lot what we just
Yeah.
said, but sort of ultimate vision is you can go onto BrainDrive and you have some default experiences, and it's very easy to discover new experiences
Yep.
and role playing and assistance, et cetera, that are targeted to your interest and the use cases and things you're looking to accomplish.
Yep.
And to build, combine, share these things, and a whole economy develops that's a knowledge economy in the digital world that instead of feeding all of this to big tech and letting them continue to capture all the value
Yep.
that we're creating, we capture the value that we're creating with our knowledge bases just like we do the knowledge in our physical head, right? But the key to that is owning it, right?
Yep.
And that's where BrainDrive Core comes into play, is maintaining that ownership and control so that we're the ones, the people that are actually creating the value on their brain drives are the ones that are capturing the value and not some centralized company.
Yep. That's a perfect world right there.
All right, awesome. So we're up on the hour. I think we could probably go for 4 or 5 hours on this, and we'll be doing more discussions about it. So, please join us every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on our live stream. These are posted later on in the afternoon on the forum at community.braindrive.ai, and that's also where you can connect with Dave and I as we build out the community, other community members as well. And we hope to see you soon. Take care.